Okay, so we learned about how Ulysses S. Grant had just graduated from West Point Academy, and now there was a war going on with Mexico. We're on page 177. Soon afterwards, Ulysses Grant helped the United States by fighting in a war against Mexico. If you remember, Robert E. Lee also fought in this war, and both men fought bravely and skillfully and learned many lessons about fighting wars. These lessons would help them both plan battles later on in the Civil War. So just like Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant both went to West Point, they both fought in the Mexican-American War. Ulysses S. Grant marries. When he returned from Mexico, Ulysses married Julia Dent. This is also important to remember. She became a wonderful wife and made her husband very happy. In the following years, they had one daughter and 3 sons. The Army then sent Grant west. So if you remember at the time, the West wasn't completely explored. We've learned about Daniel Boone and how he explored Kentucky. Well, there was more territory we know that's farther on, and people were starting to explore that more. And as they started to explore, some fighting took place, and some people were sent out there to kind of become sheriffs and peacekeepers, if you want to call them that. He couldn't take his family with him, and he missed his wife and children very much. Soon it was 11 years that he had served in the Army, and now he decided it was time to go home to his family. So he decided he would find another job. We're on page number 178. This is a time of troubles. When Grant returned from the West, he had trouble finding a job. For 7 years, he worked hard at many different jobs, and each one seemed to fail, yet he never gave up. Remember the mule? Okay, so that attitude, that idea that he had keeps coming up. During this time, trouble had been growing between the southern and northern states. In anger, the southern states withdrew from the United States and chose their own president. Remember, that was Jefferson Davis. And in 1861, the Civil War began. Grant loved the United States, and he hated to see it divided. Feeling that the South was wrong, he decided to join the Army again. He would fight for the North. The Civil War gives Grant a new name. Grant fought bravely, and he made wise decisions in battle. When he lost a battle, he remembered the lesson he learned from his times of troubles, and he never gave up. A few months after he entered the war, Grant led his men into Tennessee. There he captured a Confederate fort. Grant did not stop there. He moved on to capture another fort. The Confederate soldiers fought bravely, but soon they knew that the battle was lost. The commander of the Confederate fort asked Grant, "If we surrender, this fort will you allow us to keep?" Grant replied, "No terms except an unconditional and immediate surrender can be accepted." That means we're not going to let you keep it. No. Grant was saying that if the Confederates wanted to give up, they would have to give up the fort and everything that was in it. They would have to keep on fighting or give up everything. The enemy chose unconditional surrender. And because of this, Grant's answer made him famous throughout the North. The first 2 initials of Grant's name were U.S. People from the North took these 2 initials and gave him the nickname Unconditional Surrender Grant. So that's very important to remember. His nickname was Unconditional Surrender Grant. So U.S. Unconditional Surrender Grant. That's all for this video. We will continue on with the end of the battle and also some other things about Grant's life.